Today, we're diving into a ghost story that went absolutely viral, and honestly, for good reason. It all goes down in a hospital, late at night, and it has all the perfect ingredients for a truly classic haunting. But what makes it so dang effective? Well, we're going to break down the anatomy of this story, starting with the one terrifying question that kicks the whole thing off. It all begins with this question. A patient is asking about a visitor that no one else can see. And notice how the story just drops us right into the middle of the mystery. There's no buildup, no warning, just an immediate, chilling hook that has no logical answer. And here's our setting. A state hospital. A place of healing, sure, but also a place of suffering, of transition. And the time? Oh, it's perfect. 3 in the morning. For centuries, people have called this the witching hour. A time when the veil between our world and whatever's next is supposed to be at its thinnest. All right, so the story kicks off on what seems like a totally ordinary night shift. Our main character is a travel nurse, and in the dead quiet of the hospital, a call bell rings. It's the classic start to any good horror story, right? The complete disruption of the normal. So our nurse's name is Sheila. The call's coming from a patient named Mary, and you can just tell there's this real urgency, this fear in her voice. So when Sheila gets to the room, Mary's complaint isn't about pain or needing a glass of water. Nope, it's about someone else in the room with her. Another nurse. Just standing there, silently, in the corner. And just like that, the unexplained figure makes its first appearance. Now, you can imagine Sheila is completely baffled. She's thinking, what on earth is she talking about? She knows for a fact that there are only 2 nurses on the entire floor, herself and her colleague Stacy, who is sitting right back at the nurse's station. So from a purely logical point of view, what Mary is seeing is impossible. Sheila tries to get some more details, but Mary's description is just unsettlingly vague. She can make out the shape of a woman in the shadows, but that's it. This is such a classic horror technique, right? It lets our own imaginations fill in the terrifying blanks. So Sheila does what any good nurse would do. She checks the room top to bottom, the corners, the bathroom, everywhere, and finds absolutely nothing. So she reassures Mary, suggesting it was probably just a bad dream, a trick of the mind in a dark room. And right here, the story takes a sudden, gut-wrenching turn. A few hours after this whole sighting thing, Sheila goes back to check on Mary and finds her lifeless on the bathroom floor. All of a sudden, that strange complaint isn't just a weird event anymore. It feels like an omen. So maybe you're thinking, okay, a tragic coincidence on a spooky night, and maybe that could be the end of it. But no, 3 months later, this single, isolated incident starts to look like a truly terrifying pattern. Sheila finds herself back on the very same unit, assigned to the exact same room where Mary passed away. This time, her patient is an alert-oriented man in his 60s named Mr. Howard. The stage is set for a chilling repeat performance. And then it happens, just as the clock strikes 3 in the morning. Just like before, the patient's call light slices through the silence. You can just imagine the incredible sense of dread Sheila must have felt at that moment. When Sheila enters the room, Mr. Howard asks almost the exact same question that Mary did 3 months earlier. He sees a woman in the corner, and he asks that same haunting question. What does she want? At this moment, Sheila knows this is no coincidence. And I mean, just look at this laid out side by side. The evidence is, well, it's pretty undeniable. The details are identical, same room, same time, same sighting, and even the exact same desperate question. The odds of 2 different lucid patients hallucinating the same thing are just astronomically low. So, with this pattern being undeniable, the nurses have to look beyond coincidence. They need answers. And it turns out, the key is buried deep in the hospital's own history. Sheila, understandably shaken, tells her colleague Stacy what just happened. And that's when Stacy remembers something, a story she'd heard, a piece of hospital lore about a tragedy that took place on that very floor. And this timeline here, it explains everything. Years ago, back in the 90s, a nurse on that unit was suffering from extreme stress and burnout. One night, it all just became too much to handle. The next morning, she was found dead on the bathroom floor. The parallels to what happened to Mary are just impossible to ignore. So now we have the full picture. A tragic death, a repeating haunting, and a backstory that's rooted in very real human pain. But now let's step back and really analyze why this digital folktale is so incredibly effective. So what are the actual mechanics going on here? Let's break down the key horror tropes that make this story work so well. First, it takes a mundane, trusted setting, a hospital, and it flips it, turns it into something terrifying. Then, it uses the classic 3 a.m. witching hour. But crucially, the ghost's origin isn't some ancient evil. It's a relatable human tragedy of burnout, something a lot of people can understand. The story also builds slowly, and that lack of specific detail about the ghost's face, that forces our own minds to imagine the most terrifying version possible. Ultimately, I think this story really sticks with us because it feels like more than just a campfire tale. It taps into very real, modern anxieties about workplace stress and the quiet tragedies that can happen behind closed doors. It suggests that powerful emotions and traumatic events can leave an echo, an imprint on a place. And that's our explainer, which leaves us with this final thought. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, this story is a reminder that the buildings we inhabit every single day, hospitals, offices, even our own homes, they have histories. And it just makes you wonder, what stories do the walls around us hold?